the songs that we've written over the years, One More Cry for me is one that stands out and just an interesting, spontaneous, crazy story that had a happy ending, I guess.
One More Cry was a song that was brought in kind of from a collaboration on the outside. Jim and Kenny, I think, got together and wrote the song.
Kind of an epic song. I remember being at Jim's house in Mount Pleasant, and I think it was a Thursday night, and we had nothing, no song, nothing.
You know, usually somebody would have a riff or a starting point, and this one didn't. We were just probably playing guitars, and somebody came up with a, and then went from there. And then there was the other part that was the beginning.
And this riff here just comes out of nowhere, and we liked the vibe of that, sort of had a Sweet Child of Mine vibe, and we literally wrote it from nothingness into a complete song that night. Words, music, everything.
Kenny leaves that night. The next morning, Jeffrey happened to be off and just unexpectedly came by the house that morning. I didn't know he was coming, just came by and said hi. And I said, hey, listen to the song that Ken and I wrote the night before. Played it for him. And Jeffrey was very instinctual about songs. You always wanted his approval when you played him a song. If you got really excited about it, you know, and which he was known to do, then you felt like you had written a decent song.
Well, I just remember going over to Jim's house and him played me this song, and it was great. It really blew me away, and I just knew we had to record the song just immediately.
Immediately said, oh, this is a great song, you know, when are you going to record it like today? Like, you know, we can't go today. And he goes, well, let me call the studio and we'll book time and we'll go in as early as possible. We need to go in there. So
Jeffrey was pretty much just over the moon about it, and was ready to record now. I mean, he was like, let's build a studio, let's go, let's record this thing.
So like I said, I wanted to get the song recorded, and so called GM Records and got the session booked. And I think it was on a Sunday that we went down there.
Later in the day, he called me back and said he'd called John Mills at the studio and said we can go in on Sunday afternoon. And I said, all right, well, let me call Ken. So I called Ken and told him about it. He said, yeah, that's cool. And I said, hey, you need to make up a solo. You need to come up with a solo for it, because we had learned from years of recording that the more prepared you are when you go to the studio, the better success you're going to have. The pleasure you're not going to spend a lot of money taking take after take after take. And we'd been down that road a few times, and so
I know that we were really disappointed when we went to reel, because for one thing, for kids, it really cost us a lot of money to go in and do that. We're not happy with the production. We weren't happy with the way that the songs turned out. So we were kind of in redemption mode. So we were really excited to get back into the studio and just make this song, just polish this song, make it sound good, do it the way we knew we could do it.
We knew that we needed to have everything put together, and so Ken was like, yeah, I'll write a solo today, and we'll be ready to go.
So I spent Saturday basically making the solo up for the song, and
I guess Kenny spent most of Saturday writing this solo, because I came down to his house Saturday night. And granted, this is 48 hours after he'd written the song. And
if you've heard the song, you realize the solo is about 3 minutes long. So I definitely got my money's worth on that, let me tell you. And
I'm wanting to say, if memory serves, Jeffrey was supposed to come over that night, Saturday night, and rehearse with us at Kenny's, just kind of working on it. And I don't think he was able to make it. I remember that pretty distinctly. For whatever reason, he couldn't make it. So we were going to, we'll get together Sunday morning and show it to him on the way to the studio. And that's exactly what happened. He showed up on Sunday at Kenny's house, and we kind of went over it, showed him the solo, showed him the arrangement, and we were still banging out the arrangement too. Like I said, this was a lot different than what we would normally do. Normally we'd go to the studio, we would rehearse for a few weeks, maybe longer, and even play the song live. And it takes a while to arrange a song and have the song, bang it out and work on the arrangements and things like that. And then it becomes what it becomes later on. Well, when you write a song on Thursday and you're going to record it on Sunday and you haven't even had a chance to properly jam on it with everyone, you're really throwing caution to the wind, and that's what was happening with us.
Yeah, so 3 days after writing the song, we're in the studio. Jeffrey doesn't know the bass, he doesn't know the lyrics. We're teaching him the song in the studio.
But I was in the back seat with my bass, actually Jim teaching me the bass on the way to Gladewater to record the song.
We showed him the melody, we showed him the lyrics, and of course he wasn't going to be able to memorize the lyrics, but he had them in front of him. But it still takes a while to teach a singer a song that he or she doesn't know. And we were still trying to figure out, well, how many times are we going to play the intro? How many times are we going to, do the chorus, the arrangement of the song? I just remember it was very chaotic going into the recording part of it.
I've got a 2-minute solo that's the hardest thing I've ever played memorized, and it's all got to come together in this one session at GM Records because we don't have much money at the time. We've got to make this song work in the allotted amount of time we're in the studio. And
I'd heard the solo that Kenny had put together for it, and it was just, it was going to be good.
yeah, the solo to that song, I don't mind saying it's pretty insane. It's probably the best 2 minutes of guitar soloing of my career as a soloist, if you will. And I don't know, I think it was sort of I'm going to put it all on the table for anyone who ever doubted that I could play the guitar. I'm going to play this solo, and you're going to know basically every possible skill I know on the guitar. And so I almost feel like there's the song and it's its own thing, and then there's the solo, and then it's back to the song, because it really is almost a separate idea from the song, although it's it meshes together. So it was something that was important to me, and I was proud of it. I don't know that I'd ever do it again. I don't know if I'd ever want to, even a song being 2 minutes. I like them short and catchy, but it was important to that song, I think, for it to be that way, and I'm glad I did it.
And then we ended up going to the studio, and we got there, and we were getting ready to lay the music down. And at this point, it occurred to me that I never played drums to the song. I didn't even have a drum part worked up. We had never, arranged or jammed on the song as a band. We'd only played on the guitars. So I'm sitting in the drum booth, and we had just showed Jeffrey the bass part, and of course Kenny knew the guitar part, and the way the studio was set up, the drum booth, has glass going out. I could see into the bigger room where Jeffrey had his rig set up and Kenny was set up on the other side. And we were looking at each other, and I was thinking to myself as I clicked them off to start the song, I was like, this would be the first time that we played the song as a group. And that's how we recorded back then. Usually we would lay down the music, the root part of the music first, and then we would overdub the vocals and the solos and keys and other things like that. So the first part was laid down pretty live. We launched into the song, and it was going pretty well, sounding good. And I think somebody messed up. I can't remember, but we had one mess up, which wasn't uncommon. That usually happened a few times when we recorded any song. So we started over the second take, and I remember this specifically. We went all the way through the second take, and nobody messed up. So we got the music in basically a take and a half, and then we started laying the vocals, and then Kenny laid a solo down. But it just like the writing of the song was sort of, we were just channeling some sort of outside inspiration, and it just flowed, and it was almost wrote itself within an hour. And most of the songs that we like or that we've written are that way. They're not very forced. They're sort of organic. They come natural, and if you knew how to do that, you would do it every time.
It was scary, but we managed to pull it off. I think it took us 2 takes, and we've got the whole thing on wax, and forget about it.
The music was the same way. We laid the music down very quickly. Jeffrey laid the vocals down with probably 1 or 2 takes. Kenny laid the solo down in one take, and we were in and out of the studio in a few hours. It was very quick.
You know, the session, that was that whole day recording that song, and like I said earlier, we got it in like 2 takes, and really happy with the way it sounded for something we had basically created in 3 days.
It was a very unusual, interesting experience, writing and recording that song.
And so they knocked it out pretty quick.
After we mixed One More Cry, and everybody had a copy, we were listening to it in our stereos, and I think Jeffrey played Steve and Jeff a copy of it, when he saw them.
I guess it was a little awkward, a lot of times when we would go do some side work, bringing something back, showing the other guys if the other half the band weren't included in it.
It was kind of like a side collaboration. It wasn't an actual Rude Awakening song, but we all kind of collaborated in different groups back then. So I think they wrote that song and recorded it, and then brought it back to us and showed it. Of course, we all thought it was a great song.
Yeah, I wasn't even technically in Rude Awakening at the time, but me, Jim, Jeffrey, we were always doing side things, songs on the side that they may not even necessarily end up with the band, but we were always creating so much music that, if someone came up with a song and we really liked it, we weren't above just going right to the studio and recording it then. So it wasn't unheard of idea for us to do what we did with One More Cry. So
one thing that I recall about it is at one point I had the task of having to go back and learn Kenny's guitar solo to play live, because Kenny wasn't in the band at the time. So I kind of took it as a task upon myself to try to learn that guitar solo and play it note for note to try to represent him as he did it originally when we play it live.
But it was just Jim and Kenny and myself that did this. But we brought it back to Jeff and Steve. They're really impressed and really liked it. We were all very proud of it.
It's one of the first songs that we actually got some radio airplay over.
At the time, we were trying to get radio airplay. A great thing about the 80s were a lot of radio stations were locally owned. Now pretty much all of them are just corporate. They're owned by national corporations. But back then there were a lot of just local DJs who were looking for talent. And so we had recorded a few songs that were, sound quality wise, were good enough to be played on the radio. And I remember the special thing about One More Cry was we were sending out tapes to people and trying to get people to play the song on their local shows, or get it in heavy rotation. Whatever we could take, we'd be happy for. And I remember the radio station KPXI liked the song. They liked One More Cry. And so the first song that we ever had, or that I ever had in all of my musical travels and everything, was One More Cry. They played it, I remember one night, just put it on, and I remember listening to it in the car. I happened to be listening when it was going to be on.
I don't know, I think it was maybe a week or two later, I'm actually at my job, and the song comes on the radio on KPXI, which was this station around Mount Pleasant, and I'm sitting there trying to get my work done, and I'm hearing myself on the radio, and I'm like, what? And basically it's the cliche freak out moment, because you're not expecting to hear yourself, and it was quite a shock, but I was really happy with the way it turned out.
I remember talking to the DJ at the time, and said, yeah, we'll give it a spin the night tonight. So I remember listening to it, and to me the most, I guess the cosmic or interesting thing was, huge Beatle fans, we love the Beatles, and I remember the song that came on right after One More Cry was over was John Lennon's solo song, Just Like Starting Over, and I thought that was kind of ironic that here we were starting. I was 17 at the time and already had my song played on the radio, and we felt like we were definitely going in the right direction. So that was a turning point. And luckily later on we had several other songs that were also played on local radio stations. But that one was the first one that we ever had. played.
So yeah, we play that song quite a bit over the years when we play live.